Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of Changing the Narrative. I'm your host, Murray Elbourn, flying solo for this without Lizzie. She's in Washington, D.C., doing other things, which we'll talk about in a later episode. But my guest today is Tammy, and Tammy, you can introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Tammy Jackson. How are you?
Doing well. Great to have you on the program.
Thanks
This
for having me.
month is Retinitis Pigmentosa Awareness Month. And so it's a great time to be able to talk to Tammy about her journey with RP, or tunnel vision, as people call it as well. And we think it's that we're meeting a lot of people with RP and retinitis pigmentosa who are losing their vision or going through that initial diagnosis of their journey. And so we want to be able to shed a light on this. And Tammy's been very kind enough to be able to be my guinea pig for the podcast and tell her story. So I really appreciate you for that. I guess let's start at the beginning. When you were first diagnosed or first had to or noticed that your vision was going away a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about the start of your journey?
Sure. So around 2016, I guess, I had recently turned 40 and I noticed some changes in my vision. I'd had LASIK surgery back, gosh, I forget the year, but our daughter, she's 24 now. She was like 2, had LASIK surgery at that time. Of course, that corrected my distance vision. And they said, you'll just maybe need some readers eventually and that sort of thing. So I figured it was probably time for that. But I was also noticing some distance changes. So I made an appointment with an eye doctor. I went in and at the end of the appointment, went through all of the testing. And at the end of the appointment, he says, I need to talk to you. And I was like, okay. And he says, is anyone with you? And I'm like, no, why would there be? I mean, it's an eye doctor appointment, right?
Right.
So he says, well, I need to talk to you about something, but I didn't want you to face this by yourself. And I was like, I was so clueless. And at this point, I was a registered respiratory therapist, which I still am, but I was working in critical care at the hospital right down the road from the office. And um, I knew a lot of medical stuff. So I was like, really, how bad can this be? So he insisted. So I called my husband and he came to the appointment and we went into a room and he asked me, had I ever heard of retinitis pigmentosa? And I had not. So he said, I see this in your eye. He explained it to me with the bony spicules that show up in your peripheral area. And he said, I'm pretty sure that I see a fair amount of that in here. And I'd like for the retina specialist in the office behind us to confirm. Do you have time to go over there this afternoon? And of course, we did. So went over there and went through another round of tests and got to meet him. And he confirmed. So, of course, my not knowing anything really about it, my eye doctor vaguely explained it. I just wanted to know what was next. What do we do? How do we stop it? Like, what is the treatment? What do we, what's
Yeah.
next?
Yeah.
And that's when he told me there was nothing they could do.
Yeah. And so pretty confronting, right?
Yes,
It's changes your whole world and it kind of comes out of nowhere in a lot of cases.
it
And
did.
so, just in that situation, like I can only imagine like some of the things that you were thinking and feeling, but did they talk about the fact that they can't tell when and how the vision loss happens? Did they go into that
Yes.
kind of detail with you in that first?
The retina specialist went into more detail with me. He was a little bit more informative with things. I guess my regular ophthalmologist, he only at the time, and still actually, he only has 2 retinitis pigmentosa patients. So I was very thankful for one that he was able to recognize it, to diagnose it, because obviously, I think before in my appointments before leading up, it really wasn't prevalent enough to be picked up, for them to see it. So it
And
was
did you
there,
notice anything at
obviously.
all, like in your vision, or did you notice anything was kind of narrowing as far as your degree of vision was concerned?
I don't think I did, but also I don't know that I pick up or that people in this community with retinitis pigmentosa, you don't initially pick up on those things because it's a gradual change, and your brain kind of has a tendency to fill in the things that you are missing. So it's odd how that works. So when they tell me, now my, of course, degrees of peripheral vision, I don't feel like it's that narrow,
Right.
but
Right.
I don't really remember what it was like to be able to see more than what I see now. So that
Yeah.
it's so odd how your brain works,
So you're just adjusting continuously to the degree of
Exactly.
loss. Yeah. And I think
Right.
that's a really big thing. And for people who have lost a lot of vision, and Tammy, you and I were talking about this yesterday, um, it's a shock, right? And so you think about the vision that you've lost in many cases rather than the vision that you have. And
Right.
so then you kind of just focused more on what you can't see than what you can see. I think
Right.
that's a really crucial thing to talk about because as especially with RP or retinitis pigmentosa, tunnel vision, your peripheral vision decreases in, and you're really relying on that central vision until it kind of gets to like, a straw and then a pin, and it kind of gradually goes away. But as that
Right.
decrease happens, you still have usually very useful vision in that central vision. And so, like I've got scarring on my corneas and it's like blurred vision. Someone said it's kind of looking through like a mirror with all fogged up, or steamed up.
Right.
And so you
Hmm.
can't get that clear vision, even though I can see out of the whole of my right eye, as an example, and half field
Hmm.
of vision of my left eye. So everybody sees differently. And certainly, even if you have the same diagnosis, you're still seeing differently. And
Exactly.
with retinitis pigmentosa, your vision can pretty much completely go overnight, or it can go gradually and at different stages gradually. So when
Mhm.
someone walks up to someone and says, well, I have retinitis pigmentosa, that doesn't mean because it's decent central vision and very poor peripheral vision that you all see the same. And that's a really
Right.
important point. Everyone's
It
at
is.
different points in that journey. So I'd love to know,
Exactly.
like, okay, you and your husband were there,
Hmm.
kind of a big shock to the system. What happened
Yes.
next?
So after that, we were advised that I would need to have genetic testing done, and of course, because we had a child, she would need to be tested as well. So we did that. They set that up for us, and they warned me straight out, from the get go. And like I said, this was 10, almost 11 years ago. There's a possibility that no mutation will be found, and that we won't know, but they advised me to do it so that I could enter a database, where if anything were to come to fruition being done for retinitis pigmentosa or for my mutation, excuse me, it would flag me so that I would know, because there was absolutely nothing being done. That whole vitamin A was kind of up in the air then, and it's
Yep.
been, now it's not a thing. So it was basically nothing can be done. So genetic testing, register, and eventually things maybe, will come to fruition. So, and we did that, found my mutation, which was PRPF31, which is also known as RP11. So with that mutation, we kind of learned a little bit more of what we were dealing with. Not that it's a straight, hey, this is how RP11 goes, but it was
Yeah.
kind of more of a guideline that, you do not recognize it until you are middle aged, usually around 40, which is when I noticed it. However, I know that I never had night vision. I just didn't know that I didn't have night vision. So
Right.
the ERG, of course, proved that I couldn't see a thing in the dark.
Yep.
Um, but we really didn't know. I didn't think anybody could see in the dark. I knew when I
Oh,
was out,
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember, like, all growing up, and even in my high school years, we would, my friends and I would be somewhere in a dark area. I would not go like over to a bathroom or go anywhere by myself. I would always wait for someone else to go and follow suit,
Yep.
because I was always afraid I was going to be the fumbling idiot that would, walk into something or somebody, or, trip over something. So
Yeah.
that was always very hard for me, but I did not know the reason, right? I just kind of figured maybe nobody could see.
Right.
Um,
That's
so
really
I
interesting.
did,
Let's unpack
yeah,
that a little bit. So
yeah,
you've actually dealt with some form of blindness your whole life and not
correct.
really realized that that's what it was.
Exactly.
That's really
Yes.
interesting. And I
Yes.
think like that's a lot of people's journey really is like they'll have onsets or partial things that happen and they don't really know how to explain it. We see this a lot with children and their parents where something might be an issue when they're a young baby, for example, or maybe they're not seeing things correctly and they go to the eye specialist, and then the eye specialist talks in eye specialist language, and the parents come home with the child and are none the wiser because they haven't asked questions and there hasn't been that conversation. And so then
Exactly.
there's no adaptation that happens at that point. So that's
Right.
really interesting to me.
Yeah. And I found this the case with a lot of people within the RP community that I've talked to online. They also felt the same way growing up, especially when they were not having central vision issues or peripheral vision issues early on. They just know that they always struggled in the dark.
Yep.
And so that seems to be, but nobody knew. They were kind of like me. We all share in the fact that we didn't think anybody could see in the dark. We didn't know it wasn't normal. So it
Yeah.
wasn't until later that I started realizing I could not see the stars.
Yeah.
People, would say things about the stars and everything, or
Yeah.
the moon, and I noticed that I really couldn't see that, and I found that to be odd. But again, as the aging process happens, you just kind of start losing some of your vision. So I kind of figured it was just part of that,
Yeah.
and maybe needing some glasses correction. So to say that we were shocked is an understatement. So we came home and, like I said, we did the genetic testing. We did get it back, and went over that. I didn't have any much genetic counseling per se, but we were able to unpack a little bit of what to expect. So for me, it was pretty much you're diagnosed around 40. You've been stable and you might be stable for a little while. And usually by age 50 is when you start noticing and you become pretty much blind, legally blind, and blind to the point where, it's a struggle. So for me, I was still working at the hospital and still going about my daily life. Had a daughter, like I said, and that sort of thing. So we just continued to do life. And then I noticed I worked 3 to 11 shift, and I started having issues getting home at night. And I stopped one night on the way home for what I thought was a deer on the side of the road, and it was a mailbox. So
Right.
I knew that it was, progressing pretty badly.
Yeah.
So I made an appointment again, and just to confirm, and sure enough, it was progressing pretty rapidly. And my night vision was at this point really, really bad. So I had to give up my night driving license. And that was life altering for me.
Well, you've
Um,
done your whole life, right? And so that
yeah,
change of who you are as a
yeah.
medical professional and what you
Mhm.
do really must have been pretty hard to deal with.
It was very hard. I struggled because my career was everything to me.
Yeah.
And and I still keep up with every bit of my credentials and everything just in case, you always hold out hope there's going to be a cure and there's going to, you're magically going to get better and you can get back to doing what you've always loved to do.
Yeah.
So I still, and not to mention, I just love medicine. So, I still just kind of keep up with all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I registered with all through the websites, and it became knowledgeable. I was an advocate for myself. It's not the fault of any of my eye doctors, but they don't see many RP patients. So it's not on their radar.
Yeah.
So there were things that were going on that I was reading about that no one had told me was going on. In the as far as clinical trials and the start of some things.
Yeah.
So I was advocating for myself. I was constantly reading and looking up information and just, reaching out to people. I joined support groups for information and that sort of thing. Just really became active in, you know, trying to navigate it for myself.
And
Um,
let's just unpack that for a second, because I think
yeah,
that's a really crucial point in the journey. So just to be very clear, because I think there's a lot of, in the community, there's a lot of back and forth about this. And, you kind of had to come to terms with what was happening, right? And
I did.
adjust. And you've talked to me about things like orientation and mobility lessons and assistive
Mhm.
technology lessons and home environment that you've adapted. And so you've done all of those things to advocate for yourself as far as the best case scenario for you as a person. But
Exactly.
coming especially from a medical profession, you want to
Hmm.
find avenues that you can be treated, right? And so
Correct.
that was important to you. And honestly, it should be important to everybody to be at least aware of what can and can't happen. And so that's great. I want to
Hmm.
understand a little bit more about how you decided and if you spoke with your husband about that journey and signing up for the treatment trial and what was involved in the treatment trial.
Right. So I guess as things went along and I gave up my night driver's license and was home, I did end up starting a job fairly close by that I go to every day, part time, and that kept me busy and that sort of thing. So that went on for a while. And then I noticed I was really struggling to see. Things were hazy, they were fuzzy, kind of looking like I was seeing underwater, and it was a profound change. So I made an appointment with my eye doctor, and he sent me, of course, over to the retina specialist because it looked like I had a little bit of fluid starting to happen on the front part of my eye. So I saw a retina specialist. Retina specialist said it's nothing to do with your retina, although your retinitis pigmentosa is now at advanced stages. And it is progressing pretty rapidly. He had just seen me the year before. He then sent me over to a cornea specialist about what he was seeing on the front part. So I saw the cornea specialist, and I was diagnosed with Fuchs corneal dystrophy, which also is an inherited type disease for a cornea, where I had some fluid. So it was beginning stages of that, but that explained why my central vision that I had was looking different for me.
Sure.
So yeah, it
And so
was
that's
a
like a clouding of the cornea, I'm guessing.
it is. It's well, I have early cataracts, but the fluid that can build up on the front part of the cornea, it creates kind of like a scarring effect. So
Yeah.
there are drops that can be, done. They're like salt drops that can help to dry up the fluid and that sort of thing, which is an option if it were to progress. And then eventually a cornea transplant.
Yeah.
So that's all within, future things should I need it, as well as removal of the cataracts, because the goal that we're trying to do is just preserve the central vision, because I do have central vision left, just
Yeah.
preserve what we can,
Yeah.
So I saw them and found out that information, and it was advised for me to go ahead and start doing some proactive measures, like you said, for the O&M training and that sort of thing. So they did send an order over to the vocational rehab, and they came out, did formal training with me. I went to the low vision clinic about an hour from me, and got some aids to help me to be able to magnify things and that sort of stuff, and different things, sunglasses wise and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
did that. And all the while, I am actively looking for treatment options. And I got an email from, I guess it was probably, I think it was from the Foundation Fighting Blindness, and it was one of their newsletters. The headline of it was about PRP of 31 mutation of RP, which was what I have, and it caught my attention. So, and it talked about them beginning a clinical trial. So I sent a generic email to the sponsor company, letting them know that I would be interested, that I did have it, and I do have proof that I have it via my genetic testing, and that I would like to learn more. So that was in November of 2023. So I
Hmm.
sent the email, and then you have holidays and you have all the hustle and bustle and stuff. And I kind of
Yep.
actually forgot that I sent it, right?
Right.
Because it's just not, you don't think
Yep.
anything's going to come of it.
Right.
So I did get an email back from a physician, and actually in February of 2024, from a physician that was running one of the clinic sites in Houston, Texas, and I live in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And he wanted to talk with me more about things. So we set up a call for that night. I said, I'd love to talk to you more about it. My husband will be home after 4 o'clock. And if you don't mind, let's, talk then. And so he called that night, and gosh, we must have talked for about an hour. He was amazing. So we talked about what the trial, what the goal of it was, and all the things. And within about another week and a half or so, they were flying me out to Houston to have some pre-testing done. I was super nervous, but I didn't have any idea what to expect. And he had sent me a lot of information about it. He kind of sent me also a video that would, in layman's terms, kind of dumb it down for me as far as
Yep.
what was going on and with the trial and how it was going to work,
As you
you
know,
know?
medical conversations can be a little over the top sometimes. So
Right, right.
that easy language is good for people, I think.
It is, it
Yeah,
is. And it was good for me too. And he said, I'm going to send it to you. I know that you probably know what I'm speaking of, but for family, like, if you want to show it to them, it really will help. And it was helpful for me too, because I really didn't understand the gist of it. Genetics was not my thing.
sure.
So anyway, went out to Houston, had a lot of 2 days worth of pre-testing done, and I was super nervous. I wanted this so badly because it was actually the first thing that I felt like was maybe going to work, and I knew that it was not going to work in the way of reversing anything. That was very clear.
Yeah.
um
And
it
that's an
would.
important thing to talk about, I think, is like,
Yeah.
as you said, at the moment at least, what happened has happened.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
this trial in particular, the treatment plans that are available at the moment, isn't meant to completely fix your blindness, right, and give you full.
Right.
But what you've talked about and what I think is really relevant is the slowing of the process and trying to stave off further decretion of your peripheral vision, and that's an important part
It
to talk
is.
about because you're still dealing with the now, you're still dealing with the vision loss. You've taken steps with vocational rehabilitation to put yourself in the best position possible, but you
Right.
still want to be able to elongate that process of complete, decrease. So that's a really important point to talk about. And I think, it's there's no magic cures. And we're not
No.
talking today about magic cures. We're talking about practical ways to be able to deal with your situation where it is for you right now.
Exactly. And I think for me, I get a lot from people, it's so scary. I'm so scared to get, it's an injection in my eye. And they're, I get it all the time. They're scared to do it. I don't know how you do it, that sort of thing. And they were in like, aren't you worried that you're going to go blind? And I'm like, well, I kind of am already blind.
Right.
And I'm going blind. What
Yeah.
do I have to lose? They're
Right.
not going to treat both eyes. They will only treat my worst eye.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a no brainer. I mean, if I sat here and did nothing, I'm going blind.
Yeah.
If I enrolled in the trial and it was a bust, I'm going blind. If I
Right.
enroll in the trial, they give me an injection, and for some reason I lose my vision in that eye. I just lost it a little bit earlier than I was expecting. So what? Like,
Yeah. I think we
I'm
all get to
prepared for it.
that treatment cycle where we're willing to take a risk. And you talked about
Yeah.
cornea stuff. So for me, with scarring on both my corneas, I wasn't prepared to take the risk to get a corneal graft at a younger age because I didn't feel like the odds were so great. But then I
Right.
developed cataracts on the front of the eye where I have inverted blood vessels on the eye, and they had to let the cataracts grow completely over. So I went completely blind until they could take those cataracts
And
out. And at
remove
that
them.
point, like you just said, what do I have to lose? Take the
Right.
cataract out. I got
Right.
10% vision back, which was fantastic. So, like
Exactly.
everyone has that point in their journey of making a decision about their health, and to be informed, number one, is really important. And
It
then
is.
to dig about the options and find out about the trial in more detail, speaking with the
Mhm.
specialist at length, that's going to give you the best opportunity to make that informed decision.
Exactly. And I felt so comfortable with him. He was very personable and very knowledgeable with it. Didn't have any problems letting me know, any questions that I had were answered. He texts me all the time, checking on me. I mean, it was just he made me feel comfortable about it. And that goes a long way. It's scary enough to go through the whole thing, and he knows that. But to have that comfort from him was just amazing. I can't speak highly enough about him. So I was very thankful for that experience too. But in regards to the trial, we started phase one in February, the end of February, actually, February 28th, I think is when I got my first injection. So initially it was supposed to be one injection done. Um, and I knew that was going to be the case, was hoping that it was going to be like a miracle kind of thing where I could tell, and I could tell that my central vision was, it was crisper, I guess you could say. It cleared up for me.
Yep.
And I was just supposed to follow up with a lot of testing. I mean, a lot for a year. And
Right.
then a couple of months went by, and I guess they gathered a bunch of data from not only me, but and other people at that clinic site. But it was being done at 20 different clinic sites, I believe. So it
Right.
was being done, a lot. And they gathered that data, and they were like, "Well, we would like to try now that we know that it's safe." And that was the first thing, proving safety, because
Yep.
it had never been given to a human before. So, and they were giving very low doses. So then they implemented phase B, which would be an injection 12 weeks apart. So I got another injection the middle of the year in 2024, I guess, and then another one at the end of the year.
Yep.
So then we kind of rolled on, did a bunch of testing, and then they were going to implement phase three. So at that time, I had had a total of three injections, all spaced out, and I could tell a difference. Well, when they rolled out phase three, it just took a little bit longer to get through that whole process. And they had to complete all the data from, phases one and two. They had some people that had joined late and that sort of thing. So it was really a time ticking kind of process, and it was agony because we knew it was going to start,
Yeah. Let's get on
just
this.
didn't
Right.
know when. Yeah. So we started that the end of 2025, and it is an injection every 8 weeks. So I go to Houston every 8 weeks to get an injection. I've now had three in this phase. And it's going to last for 2 years. So I'm in it for the long haul, unless they, do something before the end of it. And they do meet with the FDA, I think, again, the first part of this year. So I'm excited to, and they're really good about publishing their information on their website, and
Right.
so
So
that's helpful.
informed. You're continually
Yes,
informed about what's happening.
exactly. So I find it refreshing that they give you access to that sort of stuff. Of course, I don't know my personal, things, but
Yeah.
you know, I I don't need to look at tests to know how I see. I think, I know how I see. I know what is when it's getting better and when it's not. I can
Yeah.
tell a difference in my eyes, my untreated eye versus my treated eye. There's a big difference. So I think for me now, I think about, well, what if we are preserving effectively the vision in my right eye? And I had decent central vision left whenever I began it. What if my untreated eye, what if this rocks on for a couple of more years? It doesn't get approved and on the market and available for me to treat the other eye, um, before it's too late. So
Yeah.
that's a constant weighing on your mind too, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
So there's
but
good and bad parts, right? And
it
as we've
is.
talked about recently, I've seen a lot of people posting about even having your eyes dilated, which I'm imagining you have to have, and the
Mhm.
pain and the brightness and the angst that goes
Mhm.
along with all of that as well. And you're in a new
Yeah,
environment over in Houston. Sometimes you're by yourself. Like it's a pretty scary thing that you've
it
got
is.
to do, but
Hmm.
obviously you've come to that approach that it's worth the risk and worth all of this happening. And so it's different again for everybody. Your journey is one of what you wanted to do. Other people might not, and we've talked about different treatment plans. But again, the ability to be able to understand the options, I think, are incredibly important here, and then to keep up with
Exactly.
those options about what the risk is.
Right. And I also want to touch on the part for me that probably means the most to me. And that is, like I said, I'm not in this for a cure for myself. And I don't think that there will be a cure per se. Treatment options.
Yeah,
We treat everything under the sun. We treat high blood pressure. We treat diabetes. We treat,
yeah,
congestive heart failure, all of those things. And so the blindness, and there are so many different forms of blindness. There has been not much work in that area.
No.
So I feel like we've kind of gone by the wayside, right? Because it's not a life-threatening type
Right.
thing, which
And with
is,
simple things like cataracts, as an example, that's pretty much a cure now. As soon as someone gets
right,
cataracts, that's now a very simple surgery to be able to go in and replicate and fix in a lot of cases. And so there has been
right,
in certain areas of low vision a lot of work done around certain diseases that can be really fixed pretty quickly now. But there's these, especially the genetic ones, that
hmm,
still there's a lot of unknown about, and that's why also testing is really vital. The things that
right,
are working across the medical field with things like haptics that I'm working in, a blind NFL ball creation for, and how that, talks to a player who's going to catch the ball. It's no
right.
different from that medical advances, and it's so important to everyday life as well
Mhm.
as obviously blindness.
Right, exactly. And I feel like my goal of it is helping the next generation. If they can prove in my generation that they can slow this down and test it on adults. Of course, there's no trials that it's rarely done in children, right? They're
Yeah,
so vulnerable and that sort of thing. So if my generation of people can pave the path to finding a treatment option. And if someone's child is diagnosed at, 4 or 5 years old, whatever the case may be, and they start that treatment then, will they not ever go blind? That's a possibility. Will
yeah,
they be able to maintain where they are, just like I am? It's possible. And that's the whole goal of it for me. It's not about curing it because I'm fine with what I have.
yeah,
I've embraced it. I've
yeah,
gone through the emotions. It is
yeah,
what it is, you
yeah,
know?
absolutely.
So
But that's
that's
a really good
that's for
approach. I
me.
think, that's one thing that I definitely wanted to bring you on for, because I think, you have a sense of humor, you have a personality, like you're still the person who you were before had your vision loss in many senses. Yes, things
Exactly.
change with what you can see and what you can do, like the night driving, but essentially you're still that person. And that's a really important thing to talk about, is not letting your blindness and your vision impairment consume who you are completely. Uh, and
Exactly.
it's that, I think, that ability to know that, hey, there are things out there, and to be informed and to be over those things that give you still that sense of self, that you are who you are, right?
Right, exactly. I love sharing everything about my journey and educating others in the path. And if I can help anyone in any way to navigate all the things, I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you what I've been through and what I've personally done. And if that helps you in any way, then that's fine. But I am myself, and it didn't it this genetic disease, it took a lot from me, but
Yeah.
it also gave me a lot. It gave me a vision of a different path. And I'm so thankful for that. At first I was a little bitter and angry and the why me, and that's
Yeah,
human nature, I think. But
absolutely. Yeah.
but once you find your groove and you're comfortable with where you are in life, and I'm a take me or leave me kind of person. I'm not, it's a, either you like me or you don't. It's
Right.
so I kind of that's been my approach with this, like I have it. Okay, I was on my pity pot for a little bit, but now I'm off and I'm fine, and I'm going to get back up and I'm going to continue to do what I like to
Yeah,
do.
and things are hard sometimes. That it's
Yes.
like that's expected. No one expects people to just go through and be perfectly fine with everything that happens. And
Right.
we live in a society and a world now where everything is amplified, and I think like there's a lot of pressure on people to be something that they think people want them to be. And like that's the
Exactly.
nice part about finding a community that we've found, on social media, is that's very supportive. People
Hmm.
understand, we're all going through the same challenges. And it's nice to be
Right.
able to have that community support, to be able to both tell your story and help others. And then
For
when you're having
sure.
a bad day or something's gone wrong, and you're feeling a bit down, hey, to go on and connect with people who do understand. And that's important as well. So if you're dealing with blindness and low vision and you're at the start of your journey, try and find people who can relate to what you're doing and what you're going through. It is really
Exactly.
important, right?
It is. It is very important. And for people who are fully sighted, who are close to people who are going through this journey, I know they don't know what to say, they don't know what to do, they don't know how to help or anything like that. And I will just say from my experience, I don't need anyone to do anything for me. I don't need anybody to I mean, occasionally, yes, I would love to go shopping, with girls and that sort of thing, and I need a ride. But
Yeah.
aside from that, like, I don't need anyone to do any. I just need someone to listen. I don't expect anyone else to understand, because unless you go through it in any form of blindness, you don't fully understand it. So I get, even my husband doesn't understand. Because he doesn't, he lives with me and
Yeah.
we've adapted, and I've told him things that I need done around here that make it easier for me.
Yeah.
And he's fully aware, but he cannot relate to it. And it's not his fault, you
No,
know?
that's right. And I think like that's the important thing is sometimes we do expect people to understand when they haven't gone through it, and that's tough
Right.
because they really can't
They
understand
can't.
because there's so many things that go into that journey. And where we're talking about how you adapted your house as an example, and how I really like that because not many people always think about that things. What kind of lighting do you want? How do you want it positioned? Where do you want it?
Hmm.
How do you want your social media stuff like Alexa or Google or Apple, whatever you use to be able to answer things for you and work for you. So, like,
Exactly.
everything's just changing, and society is changing as well with all of these
Hmm.
tools that
It
have kind of
is.
come in the last 10 to 5 years of
Hmm.
technology, really closing the gap across a lot of things. So, I think all of our journeys are still evolving pretty quickly with everything that's happening.
Yeah. For sure. I love we finally, I live in a rural area and we didn't have internet for a very long time. So when we finally got internet here, I was over the moon. I started everything smart. I have smart devices everywhere, smart plugs on my lamps are on smart plugs. We put in, motion little lights on our baseboards. I have LED lighting under my vanity. I have it up underneath my bed, all the things. So it's an adjustment for sure, but you learn to adapt, and what I needed last week is not what I may need next week. So we're always changing, or yesterday for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Let's talk about some of the things that you still enjoy doing and some of
mhm.
the hobbies that you do. You
Yeah,
live on the lake in South
we do.
Carolina, which is a really nice
Correct.
place. You're out on boats, I see. You're
Yes.
walking in snow. You're traveling to see baseball games for your Yankees,
Yes.
your beloved
Yes.
Yankees. And
Yes.
tell me a little bit about your baseball journey with your stadiums.
Yeah, so whenever we learned after I left the cornea specialist, and we kind of learned that things were progressing pretty quickly, I guess in a sense I may have known that, but to hear the words, it drove it home for me, and made it real. You can push things in the back of your mind all you want, but when you finally hear the words,
Comes a
it
different kind of
becomes,
reality.
it does. So I cried, and got it out of my system. And then my husband, he knows me so well. He says, well, what do you want to do? And what do you want to see? And I said, you're going to think I'm crazy. We love our New York Yankees, and we love Yankee baseball, and we watch it all the time. I had never been to New York before. He hadn't either. My husband is the epitome of a countryman, okay? Doesn't like to go big city.
Right.
So I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but the very first thing that I would like to check off on a bucket list would be going to Yankee Stadium. I would like to go to New York. I would like to sit in the stadium, and I want to watch my Yankees play ball. And he was like, okay. So in a couple weeks, I was sitting in Yankee Stadium, watching the Yankees play. It was amazing. And since then, we have been to six of the major league stadiums. I would love to see them in all 30. And actually, in 2025, is it last year? Yeah. I was there in Houston opening day for a trial visit. And the Yankees were playing in Houston for opening day, and we got
Oh,
to go. So
nice.
I was yeah, that was something for me. So somebody who'd never been to a major league baseball game before, she had now gone to Yankee Stadium in New York and accomplished New York, and then got to go to opening day. So that was amazing. So we've gone to six stadiums and two spring training games down in Florida, which is closer to us. Um, and we're on a quest to see all 30. And we're making plans for this season and where we're going to check off. I've met some amazing people in a ballpark chasing group that I'm a part of, and they're all cheering me on. And I got to meet up with a couple of them when we went to Baltimore this last season, and met a couple of them. Of course, they were from Baltimore and huge Baltimore fans, but they were amazing to me.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
Now, I
it's
do
been a
have
great
one
journey.
comment though. I did see the back of your jersey, your Yankees
Mhm.
jersey, with the different states
Yes.
that you've gone to. I just want to
Mhm.
know, how do you now? I noticed one of those stadiums is Fenway Park, and
Correct.
you do have a Boston logo on the back, the Red Sox logo on the back of your Yankees jersey. So
I
I'm
do.
very interested to see if you've got any comments about that from anybody.
Well, people who don't realize what it's for,
Right.
but yeah, everybody thinks that it's super neat. But then I guess the chasing 30 blinds is what I chose to put on the back of mine.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a few random things that I navigate with my seeing eye cane, so I think they're
Yeah.
kind of afraid to say anything.
Right. Might get whacked with the cane like a
Right.
bat.
Right. Either that or they pity me and they don't know what to say. So
Well, I love it. I love it. I love that you're chasing a dream and you're still
thank
living
you.
life, and
Mm,
that you're so excited about doing these things. And
yes.
I think that that's a really important thing. Is while all of this is happening, you've still got to have things that you look forward to in life. You've still got to have things that you want to go and do and be yourself.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and
And
never lose sight of that.
I will say that I was scared to death to go when I became a recluse per se for a long time, right? And then when I started learning the O&M training, it changed my life. And I was resistant to it for a while because I guess that made it a finality for me, right? And it
Yeah.
showed others where I was so used to maybe disguising my
Yeah.
vision loss
Well, you
around
lose a bit of independence, don't you? Like
you
you
do.
that bit of independence where you can just go and do it and you feel like you're doing it yourself, and then you need assistance with the cane to be able to go and do something. So that's a
Right.
natural progression, right, of vision loss that everyone goes through.
Exactly. So I was scared to go, we would stay home because I didn't feel like going out in public and maybe missing a handshake or missing or knocking my drink over at dinner, with friends and things like that. So I kind of became a recluse and became comfortable just being at home in my safe environment and not going anywhere. And I couldn't, there were things I wanted to see. I had to get out of that. So the first
Yeah.
step was doing the training. And when my first trip was the New York trip after gaining my O&M training. And if you can navigate New York with a seeing eye cane, you can do it absolutely anywhere. So I broke the ice with that one.
Now, I did see a video that you posted on your TikTok channel of you paying very close attention to your favorite player, Aaron Judge, the captain of the Yankees,
Yes,
when he was in batting practice. And
correct.
let's hope this video goes viral and you get a
Right?
chance for Aaron Judge to see this video. I mean, hopefully he doesn't see your stalking in the batting cage video before
I
that.
know.
But you love Aaron so much that, in fact, you called your dog after Aaron. Tell us about that.
Yes. Yes, we our Pomeranian, we lost our oldest Pomeranian in March of last year, and it absolutely crushed me. So after a couple of months, we I knew it was probably time to try to get another one. The house was a little empty, and my other dog was very lonely. So started looking, and when I ran across his breeder's page and I saw his face, I knew he was the one. And Lee said, "Well, what do you want to name him?" And I said, "Is there any other name besides Aaron Judge? We'll call him Judgy." So Judgy came to fruition for us in May, and he gets so confused when we're watching baseball. He loves baseball, but he gets so confused because we're
You're cheering
calling.
for the captain, right?
Yes, yes. So he knows his name. He loves baseball. He also loves Aaron Judge, his namesake. And but he gets confused because I always yell at the TV about my judgy, and he looks at me like, "Mommy, I didn't do anything."
Right. And for those of you who are listening to the podcast, Tammy just brought Judgy onto her lap. So if you want to see Judgy, you can check out our YouTube podcast where you can see Judgy. He likes to run around the bases like Aaron. He's pretty fast.
He does. He is super fast. Super fast. But
So
we love our New York Yankee baseball. And Aaron
yeah,
Judge is just a phenomenal human. I love his I just love him as a human, what he does, what he gives back, and what he stands for. He and his wife both. They are amazing people.
and the leadership obviously that he gives the club to, and
Exactly.
we want to be leaders in the community as well for blindness and low vision, and that's part of doing
Right.
this changing the narrative podcast, and having stories like Tammy's on, because there are so many people going through these challenges and changes in their lives, and we want to educate those who don't have blindness and low vision about some of that journey. And so Tammy, are there any
Exactly.
final comments that you have or anything else you'd like to talk about?
I think we've covered everything. I just would like to say, follow along, join your support groups. The TikTok platform for me has been amazing. I have met so many people through Blind Talk that are alike me and different than me. They shed light on their perspective eye diseases, which is refreshing. I always love learning from others and what they go through and that sort of thing. Um, so I've found a lot of comfort in support groups like that, and finding your way. And also TikTok is great for, you see everybody. The diversity on there is amazing. So you get to see a little bit of everything, and it's a good release. So I enjoy it very much. So find your people, do your O&M training. If you've been on the fence about it, do it, because it's super liberating and you will feel like you can just do and go wherever you would like. So that's important. And just find your people, and
Yeah.
keep living life.
Absolutely. Great messages to have. Hey, want to thank you again for being here and telling your journey to us and
Sure.
letting us in, and getting a good perspective about that. Um, like Temi said, Blind Talk, uh, TOK is a great group that if you're going through these things, we encourage you to join and start meeting people and posting about your journey, and commenting on other people's journey. I think that's really helpful. And of
Mhm.
course, your vocational rehabilitation agency in your state. If you haven't
Yes.
connected with them and you're starting out on this journey, they're a fountain of resource for things like assistive and adaptive equipment, orientation mobility training. And so
Mhm.
engage your local state agency for blindness and low vision as well.
For sure, for
And
sure. There's a lot of information out there. I posted a video recently compiling all of the clinical trials, whether they were gene specific or agnostic treatments across the board that are actively going on. So, tune into that video if that's something you want to check out. Clinical trials. And also, I posted a video about how to go about getting your genetic testing done. So, that's very important too. People, they want to know why do I
and if
need to
people want to
know?
connect with you, Temi, on TikTok and Blind
Yes.
Talk, how can they do that? What's your name?
I am Tammy J underscore 99. The 99 is for Aaron Judge.
There we go again.
Go figure.
Viral Yankees. Now, I also am very keen to be able to start a fantasy baseball league in our Blind
Mm,
Talk group this year. And so I'm sure Tammy will pick Aaron Judge first. And,
you know it.
and we'll keep you updated on the fantasy baseball this year as well. So that's another fun thing that we'll be doing.
Great.
Well,
Well,
thank
thank you so
you.
much.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to have you on. Listeners, download, tell somebody about the podcast, tell somebody about your own blindness journey if you're going through that. Just the more people that you can make aware about what you're going through, and for them to understand a little bit better, that's going to help you as well. So thanks again, Temi. We'll catch you and connect with Temi as well on Blind Talk or TikTok. And I'm Ameribility Services on TikTok. So please feel free to join the group as well through me. Hey, thanks very much. Go
Thank
Yankees.
you. Go
And, uh,
Yankees.
and we'll be up in the next episode. Have a great day, everyone.